Hi, friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today, we're going to be talking about French comfort foods, some of my favorite kind of easy comfort food. I'm going to do a series with a different cuisine each time. We'll do Italian comfort food, Mexican comfort food, etc. But this one is definitely my favorite because the French just have a way with food. We'll be talking about Croque Monsieur, quiche, French toast, a few things that you can make easily and that'll fill that hungry gap in the winter and anytime you need some comfort food. So these French comfort foods are things you can make without really needing the fancy chef techniques, and they don't have fancy ingredients. They don't take a lot of time. They're indulgent, they're homey, they're yummy. So the first one, of course, is Croque Monsieur or Croque Madame. Slight difference between the two. So Croque Monsieur is a warm ham and cheese sandwich that's baked or pan fried with bechamel sauce on top. And then the Croque Madame is the same with a fried egg on the very top. Often it uses an authentic cheese like Gruyère or Emmentale to give it that extra edge with flavor. And you can add interesting things to your bechamel as well. But the basic Croque Monsieur is a fabulous comfort food. So let's talk about how to make it. So first you want to make the bechamel sauce and have that ready. So in a small saucepan, you can melt the butter and add the flour and whisk for about a minute. So this is called a roux. And you want to kind of balance the amount of butter with the amount of flour so that it's not too thick, but almost wanting to make a dough, but not. So it stays runny, and you need to let it bubble a little bit so that it cooks the flour and it doesn't have that floury taste. I'll add the recipe below with the exact amounts of each thing, but you can use equivalent butter and flour, like 1 tablespoon of each. And then you're going to use half a cup of milk. So this is for a small portion. If you make it for a family, it's going to be a lot bigger. You slowly add the milk and you whisk it in, and the roux will slowly thicken as the milk warms. And then you cook that for a couple of minutes and you keep stirring until it's a good thickness, not too thick, but just how you like it. And then you can season it with salt, pepper, sometimes a bit of nutmeg, and you can put sage leaves in to give it flavor. I also like to add a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese and whisk that in just a tiny bit. So it's not like a cheese sauce, but it gives it that nice cheesy flavor. And then you remove that from the heat so it should be creamy, but not too runny. So your bechamel sauce has really got to have good flavor. So if it's not quite there, add a little bit more salt until you're happy with it. Then number 2, you're going to assemble the sandwiches. You lightly toast the bread slices. Spread a little Dijon mustard on one side of each slice, or some nice butter. And then you put ham and a handful of cheese between the slices. The best is to combine cheeses. So use a little Emmentale, a little cheddar, a little jack cheese or Edam, a little Gruyere for a stronger flavor. Find a combination that you enjoy. Don't forget to add a little bit of salt with the cheese. It really lifts the flavor. Then when you've made your sandwiches, you stack them on an oven tray or in a pan. You spoon a little bechamel sauce on the top, and then you have a little bit more cheese sprinkled over the sauce. Then you put them in the oven, the baking tray in the oven, and bake them at 200 Celsius or 400 Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes until the top is bubbly and golden. So what you could do is you could bake the sandwiches without the bechamel if you didn't toast the bread, and then you could add the bechamel after. But it is much easier. Toast the bread, assemble, and then bake. And then you can serve that with a green salad or with pickles, and then add the fried or poached egg to the top with the yolk dripping down the sides if you like the croque madame. Then another French comfort food, which is really easy. You don't even need to cook. You just need a French bakery nearby or your local grocery store that has good croissants. So get some croissants and then some ham and cheese slices. Usually, again, cheese like Emmentaler or Gruyere works great. And then simply make a croissant sandwich for your dinner using the ham and cheese. Or if you prefer, you can bake some chicken breasts and make chicken mayo or chicken salad, bit of celery and mayonnaise mixed into the shredded chicken. Put that on the croissant, and that is wonderful for dinner. And then you could use second croissant for your dessert. You slice it or kind of pull it in half and then have some whipped butter on your plate and some honey. And then spread a little bit of butter on the croissant where you ripped it, a little bit of honey, or dip it in the honey and take a good bite. And then you spread a little more butter and a little more honey and another bite as you go. What a wonderful comfort food for dinner. Then French toast is actually from ancient Rome, not France. I don't know why it's called French toast, but it's fabulous. So let's include it here. So you need to crack a few eggs into a flat dish and add a bit of milk and seasoning. So I like to add kind of 3 eggs at a time, a dollop of milk and some or creme fraiche is also delicious, and some salt and maybe pepper. And then you dip your bread, you whisk the egg up and dip your bread in it. First soak the one side and then turn it over and soak the other side. Then you lift it up, let it drip a little bit, and then you place it into a hot pan. And it's pretty important to turn it over quite soon so it doesn't stick and so that the egg has a chance to kind of stay in the middle, doesn't go all the way to one side. So I'll put it in for a minute, then I'll flip it over and leave it for a while and possibly add a little more salt if necessary. And then when it's well cooked, you flip it again, cook the other side properly. And when it's golden and crispy, you can take it out. Some people like to add maple syrup. Some people like to add mayonnaise, or you can even put another egg on top if it's breakfast, but it works great as a quick, healthy dinner. Then quiche is a wonderful French comfort food. You can do a crustless quiche without bothering with the crust because the crust can often take more time and it sometimes contains gluten that we don't want if you're gluten free. So choose if you want a crustless quiche or not. It really doesn't make that much difference. I find a crustless quiche completely delicious and you don't even miss the crust. You can add some steamed vegetables to a quiche dish and then make your pour over. There's a great recipe in our family food for moms recipe book, which is called Elegant Easy Appetizers. So then you can do zucchini, broccoli, butternuts, any kind of vegetables you like, steam them till they're soft and put them in the bottom of the quiche dish with a little bit of salt over them. Then you make your egg mixture in a blender. You can add some eggs, some milk, some feta cheese and seasoning, even a little bit of cheddar cheese. You blend that up and you pour it over the vegetables and bake it until it's set. Alternatively, do the same thing in muffin trays. Add a little bit of steamed vegetables into each and perhaps a little bit of bacon that you then shred, pull apart, and then you pour your egg mixture over those and make little mini quiches or egg cups. Another fabulous comfort food, although it's more of a side dish, is the gratin dauphinoise, potato dauphinoise. Thinly sliced potatoes that you bake in cream with milk and garlic and some seasoning like nutmeg. So this is a very delicious dish. I find it takes longer to cook than you realize, but it's so creamy and soft and it goes great with any main course. So you can look up a recipe for that. Then French onion soup. This would be caramelized onions simmered in beef broth, and then you top them with a toasted baguette and melted cheese. Definitely comfort in a bowl. It's amazing. I found it worked really well to do it in the instant pot. I found the onion was more tender and it was quicker to make. So look up a recipe for French onion soup in the instant pot. And then ratatouille. This one is if you like vegetables in tomato kind of base, but it's an amazing mix of vegetables, eggplant, zucchini, red peppers, tomato, and herbs. And it works great with rice and any kind of meat dish. So look up a recipe for ratatouille. Another easy comfort food with French camembert cheese is so easy to make. So you take a piece of camembert, usually it's a round, and you add some strawberry jam or raspberry jam on top, maybe even a few crumbled pecans, however you say it. And then you bake it in the oven until the cheese is melted and the jam is melted over the top. And that's amazing. And then you can use toast, Melba toast, or any kind of bread to spread it on, crackers even, and enjoy that camembert as an appetizer or as part of your main course. Of course, you can do a French baguette and cheese board if you don't really want to cook, and that's a delicious way to have a comfortable dinner. So you grab some French baguette and you slice it. You use some amazingly well-made salted butter. You cut some French cheeses like brie, camembert, and any other cream cheeses that you've got. You add some crackers. You add some fruit like grapes, figs, whatever you enjoy, and just make up your charcuterie board, mainly using French bread and French cheese. And then everybody digs in and helps themselves. Another easy dinner that's kind of a French comfort food is crepes. So French crepes are like flat, thin pancakes that you roll up and you put a filling inside. And they're really easy to make. It's basically flour, milk, and a couple of other ingredients. I think a bit of egg. You can search for a recipe for French crepes. And then you fry them in a pan very flat. So you put a scoop of the liquid in. It's much runnier than normal pancake batter. And then you swirl it around the pan. So it's a very thin layer all over the bottom of the pan. And then you flip it. And then you have your crepes. Once you've got a stack of crepes, everybody can grab them and you can have some savory, some sweet. We actually like to do chicken mayo or tuna mayo inside some of the crepes, adding a bit of cheddar cheese with those. And then for the sweet version, we would do some cinnamon sugar and a little maple syrup. So you can use crepes as both your main course and your dessert. And everybody loves those. It's a real comfort food. You have to make quite a few. Sometimes we'll double the batter for our family of 7. And then we'll sometimes use spelt flour because some of us are wheat-free. And then once you've got the batter, you let it rest a little bit, and then you start making your crepes. You can have a couple of pans and a couple of people at the stove, and it's a fun social event as you make the pancakes and then eat them with some delicious fillings. So some ideas of easy things to do inspired by French cuisine. I hope you get to try some of those. I think we're going to try the crepes very soon. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.